Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host, and another great show for you this evening. I'm very excited to talk to Rony Vernet. He is a Brazilian ufologist. He has looked and spoken to people in Peru with all that weird stuff going on that you've seen in the news out there. There's a lot of strange things happening, and the answers I think are pretty strange that illegal gold miners would use jetpacks to search out, prospective areas to mine and, instead of drones and things like that. So there's strange answers from the authorities there and many very scared villagers. And he's talked to some of them also. Some similar things happened in the Brazil part of the Amazon, and he's going to be talking about that as well, looking into all of these type of cases. So that'll be coming up in just a minute here. A couple of things. The blog this week is part 3, is a 1968 UFO incident at Minot Air Force Base by Charles Lear. Those are turned into audio blogs here on the channel. And speaking of here on the channel, Crossfire this week, I'm going to be hosting the Crossfire this time. Kevin Randall's a guest host. We're going to be talking about AARO and Kirkpatrick. And by the way, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is going to be live with a virtual situation in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be held, but I am signed up for it. I'm going to watch that, and you're able to pose questions that he may or may not get a chance to answer. So that I don't know exactly where to tell you. I know it's the Hayden Center. You can Google it, and I will try to put something in the show notes once I find out more information, because I don't even know what time it is. I think it might be 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, but I'm not positive about that. So so that's Crossfire this week. That's Thursday night at 8 to 10. Again, I'm going to be hosting that or whatever you want. I'm going to be leading that, administering it, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's it. I want to thank everyone that supports the show and everyone that listens. And we will be bringing the guest in right now. Rony, welcome to the show.
Hello. Good night for everyone. Good night, Martin. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes,
I watching right now and after you enjoy it.
That's right. And where you were right in Rio de Janeiro, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was surprised when you told me we're only in like an hour difference in time. Our time zone's really close, right?
2 hours. 2 hours.
Oh, 2 hours. Yeah.
Yes, it's like 9 p.m. right now here.
Yeah, that's something. I don't know why I thought it was such a big time difference, but glad anyway that I've had a lot of times where I've had people and coming on the show and we get the time mixed up, but it usually has to do with we have the daylight savings time changes here and they get all mixed up and then they never show up or they're there an hour early or something like that. But anyway, so can you please give your background and what steered you to the interest of ufology to begin with?
Yeah, I'm not originally a UFO guy. I'm electronic and computer engineer here in Brazil. I'm doing my master research in physics in area of artificial intelligence applied to experimental physics, more particularly to cosmic rays and high energy physics. And I'm also a long-time employee from federal government. I work for more than 10 years at the Department of Energy here in Brazil, more specifically in the area of petroleum, biofuels, and also in the area of technology where I manage a department there for logistics. So I started with the UFO stuff in 2020, in the middle of the pandemics. Since 2018, I was visiting a hotspot in Brazil, doing some, not the research, but some local observations of phenomena there. I got really impressed about these hotspots located here in Rio de Janeiro, a state where I live, but in a remote area, more rural area, around of mountains, and rivers and all these preserved ecosystems. And since that time when I did this observation, I started to be very curious, very interested to study more and more. And as I said, in 2020, I started feeling some requests for Brazilian Information, Freedom of Information Act, and it was very successful to bring a lot of documents and videos from cases in Amazon, cases that we are seeing today, for example, in Peru and also in Brazil. And that time we're talking about cases about almost 10 years ago, and these cases are happening in waves, as we will discuss today. So this is where everything started.
I see. Great. Well, yes. So when I started hearing about this happening in Peru, I was contacted by a lot of different people about it, mostly listeners, but they're all paying attention to it. But they're sending me the strange things that they're sending me is that, there's jetpacks. And to me, right off the bat, when a jetpack costs, $250,000 up to, close to $500,000 to buy a jetpack, it just doesn't seem like you would have a bunch of them flying around trying to scare villagers. So first of all, what did you think when you started hearing the answers like this, the jetpacks and all that, and for what was going on?
Yeah, we need to remember that in July to August, the case started near Iquitos, which is known as the capital of the Amazon in Peru. And we have this little village called San Antonio de Pintuyaco, which is a village where lives the Iquitos people. That's the name of the ethnics of these people. And at that community specifically, we have a case involving a girl, a 15 years girl called Thalia. And this girl was alleged encountered two beings that could fly using technological devices, and they superficial cut her in her neck. And
Right.
after that case, immediately after that case, the federal police from Peru went there to investigate. The Peruvian Navy also did some research about that, but was not went physically to go there on the police. And all happened because of this case. But we need to remember that since June, these cases were happening more south of Peru, near Pucallpa, near Contamana, and other places. And these cases started to move more to north in Iquitos, where this case with Thalia, the girl Thalia, happened. And right after the visit, or during the visit, I don't know the right time frame, the people, or the police, or the people from the community, we don't know with a lot of certainty, but they asked Thalia, the girl, to hold the phone. And this phone, he had a Google image picture of a French guy, an inventor, flying by using a jetpack. So this was very good to media. This was very good to the Peruvian government, that immediately after that photo went online in the portals, they said, okay, these are just illegal miners using jetpacks. But we need to remember, as you said, this specific guy, and people said, oh, this is the guy that was floating in that community. No, it's not right. This guy was just an inventor. It's just a picture from Google. And this started a wave of stories about that 90% are not true. And as you said, these devices are very, very expensive. This specific device, I think, is not operational. We have another kind of devices. And these devices have different characteristics. For example, a lot of noise, because they are based in compressed air. Yeah. So which is different what people are seeing, that are most all the time noiseless devices that they are seeing in the jungle.
And besides, a jetpack is something that, as far as I remember, they only last something like 12 minutes at best, right? I mean, they run out of fuel. They can't. That's the main problem of the jetpacks. They can't carry enough fuel. to be really functional for very long. So it just doesn't make any sense. And I had no idea that they were taking pictures from Google and all that. But people were talking about them like these things floating just a few inches off the ground too, right?
Yes. No, just a few. It's almost most of the time they are flying like 3 feet from the ground or 2 feet from the ground. But they also saw these beings, these floating beings, like in altitudes, like converting is like 20 feet high, which is a lot of height to a device like a jetpack or something like that. So there are different descriptions of altitudes, but not as high as 20 feet, I would imagine, by the testimonies of these people.
And then there are people describing them as like 7 foot tall. What are some other things that people are describing? And you have spoken directly to some people at these villages, right?
Yeah, I'm talking mostly with teachers, school teachers of this village, to get more information. Since end of August, I'm in contact with them. I gave some context to Timothy Alberino, who visited this specific community of the girl Thalia, which is San Antonio Pintuyacu. And the Timothy's visit gave us a better description of what people are seeing, and confirmed the previous descriptions that we saw in the media, and that I personally obtained from them. They describe these beings as tall as 3 to 6 converting, because I converting units to US units,
meters,
right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like
the meters,
7 feet in meters, like 2.5 meters, right?
Yeah.
2.5 meters. They reach almost 2.70. This is what they are describing. Some describe like 2.20 meters. So this is what they're big guys. So these are the description about the size of them. They are all armored in a black suit, like a robot. They describe like a robot or like an astronaut. In Brazil, for example, people describe it then as the Iron Man armor, to describe it like a strong armor. Sometimes they describe something in the back, like a huge, like what the astronauts have to hold the equipment, and also a helmet to covering their face, a big helmet, an elongated head, and the eyes are luminous yellow in most of the sightings. This is the description that they are talking. And about the devices, the most descriptions, accounts of circular boots or circular platforms, which is different from all the devices that we know as jetpacks. And with these devices, these guys are able to lift in what we are talking like 1 meter to 6 meters in height from the ground. So these are but we have also descriptions of like hoverboards as long as 15 feet, and also vehicles carrying 2 people inside. And these vehicles carrying 2 people inside is the most described along the history in Brazil, from 70s to nowadays. We have a lot of descriptions of these crafts holding, accommodating 2 people. This is a resume of what people are seeing there.
When you say a vehicle holding 2 people, what type of description and shape do they say? And do they actually see the people on the outside of whatever this craft is? And I'm just trying to figure out how they understand there's 2 people or 2 beings or whatever in these craft and what they look like.
In Brazil, it's more common to have, in previous cases in Brazil, in Amazon, it's more common to have cylinder-shaped objects, a vertical cylinder, vertical orientation, with 2 people inside. We have also drownings from the Air Force of this vehicle. And this vehicle was responsible in Brazil for the attacks with laser beams on people, causing physiological effects and so on. That was investigated a lot by Brazilian Air Force. But in Peru, they are describing something like a corn-shaped object, something different from the cases in Brazil, carrying also 2 people inside. And in Brazil also, 5 years ago, we have also descriptions of cylinders. So depending of the region, depending of the time, we have different descriptions of the shape of these objects. But what is similar between these sightings of vehicles are that they are carrying 2 people, and people can see these beings because these vehicles are almost translucent or transparent, like a big window, like a panoramic window. So this is the reason that they could see these 2 beings.
Wow, and that's what they were seeing in Brazil. They haven't seen, but when you say that they've seen these, you said almost like hoverboards or something like that. Is that also something that's transparent that they're seeing the beings through?
Now, when you say these platforms, these are boots that are attached to the boots of the beings that they could fly. Is like some propulsion from this individual. When you say hoverboards, this could be as big as 15 feet that could carry 2 guys inside, standing in this hoverboard, like a surfboard, a floating surfboard or something like that. And we have also these vehicles that are almost like big drones in different shapes carrying these beings. So we have these 3 different classifications of things that people are seeing in Peruvian Amazon, and also something like that in Brazil.
Now I know this all does sound crazy. It really does. But there's so many people reporting these villagers, and one of the things I have to say when I've watched any of these videos is you can't fake the fact that they are absolutely terrified. They are just really, really scared. And that's, there's, some people, the skeptical people, and I think a case like all this should be looked at with skepticism, but they're saying that, it's mass hysteria, and that's what this is all about and all that. But I mean, this is an ongoing thing. And there's been some shooting at them, and they're saying that they don't. Well, if they have like body armor or whatever, that's I guess they're not. When they're shot at, nothing happens, right?
Yeah, they describe they get close to these beings and immediately shot with these guys carry shotguns because it's the measure to protect them, since they don't have police, they don't have nothing governmental to protect them closer to these villages, so they carried shotguns. And people that many people in many communities say that hit the bullets of shotguns in these beings because they saw when they hit, they saw some like a flash of light or something effect like that. And this in many ways disturbed these beings because they continued to fly on their path. So the interpretation of them is that the hit didn't affect or caused any damage for them.
And what about, has anyone claimed that they've seen like any big craft with, like, do I want to say mothership or something, like all these things have come in together? Or, I mean, are people talking about those type of things too?
No, in these cases in Amazon, these recent cases, right now, or for example, 5 to 10 years ago in Peru, in Brazil, we don't have any case that I remember of big ships. We have small ships, as I said, carry 1, 2 people, or these individuals, these floating beings. This is what people are talking about.
Right. So
if you permit, I could share some image there.
Yeah, you may have to. I think you can try to, but you have down at the bottom in the settings, it'll say present. Oh, I think you are doing it. Yes. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it looks like we got it here. Okay.
Yeah, this is a drone from Brazilian Air Force from 77 from Operation Saucer. This is one kind of the shapes that I mentioned. That's was more common in Brazil. It's a cylinder where we have this panoramic window where we have these two beams, and this is the device most viewed in Brazil in the end of 70s that was emitting light beams in direction of people and causing many of physiological effects on them. And this, where my mouse is pointed, is the device that directed this light beam, that emits the light beam to affect people. And this is one example of many shapes of craft that military saw and drawn it during the Operation Saucer.
Yes, if you have some others, and also if you would, please send these to me, and I will add them into the show links, the show notes, that is, so that the listener to the audio show can actually look at these. So here's another
artistic depiction of the same object, showing the colors of the lights. This is the device that directed the light beam. They have other formats also described in these drawings of the militaries, and just to give an idea for the audience what kind of shapes that the military saw and the people are seeing in Amazon during all these years.
So this actually comes from the military, you're saying?
Yes, this is all drawings from the military.
Isn't that
except
amazing?
This one? This one is a modern version of these drawings. But
artist rendition,
black and white are all drawings from the military. They had a sergeant that was very good in drawings and did all these drawings for them.
So you're saying that the military actually witnessed these things?
Yes, not all of them. Some of the drawings were from descriptions of the people. This specific device with two beings was not saw by the military, was not seen by the military, was seen by, for example, the doctors that were treating people, the people that were attacked. But this other was seen by the military. Other giant objects like 100 meters long, where a being opened the door and looked into the military, was seen and testimonied by them. So I think they testimonied things more impressive than this simple small craft there, according to testimony from the command of the operation, Ura.
Wow. And overall, would you say that Brazil, the government of Brazil, is open-minded to this, to trying to figure out what's going on?
Yes, it depends of the current commander of the armed forces. Depends of these guys, the leaders. We have waves of a lot of transparency where they send a lot of documentation to the National Archives. We have thousands of pages of documents in Brazil today in our National Archives, mainly for the Air Force. But as I said, it depends of the moment, depends of the people that is in charge. So we have times of a lot of transparency mixed with times of no news about that. But comparing to other countries, comparing to the other countries in history, comparing to the other governments, Brazil for me is one of the most transparent in world about that. And the real example is if you saw the National Archives, the documentation, more impressive documentation like that, where the military drowned, and the stories about UFOs in bases. We have a lot of crazy stuff that was certified by the military there.
Yeah, that's good. I have talked a number of times to someone in Chile, with their I think it's called Cefaha, their UFO, government-based program that they have there. Jose Le is one of the people that's been on this show a number of times, and they have their whole military involved. They have police departments involved, and every part of their defense is involved in trying to figure out things. I haven't heard much from them in a long time, but it's good to know that some of your neighboring people are, neighboring countries are looking at this seriously as well.
Yeah, and current right now we have official government investigation bodies into the UFOs in Argentina, in Chile, in Uruguay, in Peru. So in Peru, in 2008, the cases were so aggressive in Amazon, in Peruvian Amazon, that they established the OIFA, which the official body for investigation of anomalous phenomena there in Peru. And that is a curious case, curious incident, that one night the military called in the middle of the night to the commander of this department, who was my friend Julio Chamorro. And Julio Chamorro was a colonel that was commander of this investigation body in Peru. And the military said, "Oh, commander, we are in front of a craft here, and we are shooting against it." So and Julio said, "Oh, please take a picture." And they said, "No way, we are just shooting this ship." So these are the examples of crazy stories involving official military documentation there in Peru. And that shows that Peru and Brazil has a long history of crazy incidents with this phenomenon.
Well, I would say maybe a couple months ago, it's hard to tell the way time goes so fast, but I had Jonathan Wigand on this show. It was his second interview, and he was talking about, are you familiar with that 1997 supposedly came upon a crashed UFO embedded in the rocks in the jungle in Peru? So it seems like it seems like there's a lot of things that are happening in that area for sure.
Yeah, and 10 years ago since 2008, since 2000s, I think in Peru, we have a lot of histories of people being abducted, people disappearing, people being affected by these light beings. And at that time, the end of the 70s, the commander of the operation here in Yolanda, the military also knew that the phenomena was moving from northeast of Peru, from northeast of Brazil and north of Brazil to the Peruvian side, more to the west. And this is a fact because that in 2000, we had a lot of waves coming in 2000, 2010, 2015, and right now, in Peru even, and also Brazilian Amazon.
That is, I just wonder why it seems to affect some areas. There's so much more activity in some areas than there is in others. It's really fascinating. And I don't.
Yeah, and you asked for me about the beings coming out of the craft, and I didn't respond. I could answer that. We have in the Brazilian Federal Police documentation that I obtained, we have an interesting story from indigenous, and these indigenous from Peru and Brazil share the same origins. They are the indigenous from Brazil in this area are just indigenous from Peru that migrated, searching for a better life. So they share a lot of stories together. They have encounters to share these stories, and they said that have a story in Peruvian Amazon that one ship one time descended, landed, and from this ship coming out 2 or 3 beings of this ship, and the indigenous were successful to shot one of the beings. One of the beings fell down and was carried by the other beings to inside the craft. So this is one example of cases where they have in the past the indigenous sharing stories about this kind of beings.
Well, I think it's sad that our first intention would be to shoot something like that, but still, I would like to also talk about the injuries and things that have happened, because Brazil, that's one of the things you hear about going way back. And I think it was a military that was injured by light beams, burned and all that. but this question came up, and it's not really a question. Well, I guess it is. Yeah, what happened in Magé, Brazil, 2020? Are you familiar with whatever that means?
Yes, it's not Maze. The correct name is Magé, with G.
Oh, Magé. Okay, thank you.
Magé, yeah. In 2020, we have an alleged craft in Magé. Magé is a city located in the state of Rio, where I live. And I went there into 2020. It was the first time I went to a field investigation mission about this subject. And I will give to Twitter a lot of information soon that I collected in the past. Interviews. I have a video of luminous phenomena that was recorded by a policeman officer. And in Magé, we don't know until today what really happened. What we know is that probably something fell from the sky. We don't know if it was a UFO, it was a spy satellite. We don't know if it was something military asset, but probably something very strange fell from the sky in an area of dense forest in top of a mountain. And the military did the operation there. I have documentation that we'll share too. They searched with helicopters for a week there. All the population of Magé saw this military movimentation. And at that time, they simply said, oh, nothing to see, nothing happened. But the fact is that they obtained the documentation showing that there was a military operation carried out there to search for something that we don't know until now what happened.
Yeah. I agree with Christopher here. He says, how can people be dissuaded from shooting extraterrestrials or whatever they are? It's shocking and tragic. And I agree. And it seems like that is our first reaction. I mean, you look all the way back to, War of the Worlds, of course, a radio show in the 1930s, on Halloween when that came out. And right away, in that story is the military is always attacking, are always the aggressor, and there's
and this behavior is common if you get all the cases since 70s to right now. The most common behavior we have in these stories is people getting shotguns and shooting against something that they really don't know what are, because as I said, the people from these communities don't have governmental support, they don't have the police, they don't have hospital, they don't have anyone supporting them, and they have a lot of these areas has a lot of violence, like drugs, like illegal miners, like organ traffic, like the
Are you saying organ harvesting?
Yes, organ harvesting.
Oh my God.
Yes. Oof. And these guys are very, very afraid of these human activities. So everything that's unknown for them, they respond with shotguns because they know that there is no one to protect them, and this is why they have this behavior.
Now, I'm sure you've watched James Fox, Virginia, on what is it? Moment of Contact by James Fox in that area, and that is just that's another case in Brazil that's that's really something to that one. And is that something you've ever looked at too?
Yes, and this is the case that we have the large quantity of witnesses and official testimonies from military, from policemen, from firemen, from doctors, a lot of doctors, including doctors that saw the video of the creature, the doctors that saw the creature live. And this is the case that we have most compelling witnesses of all the cases in Brazil. And this is a fact that we all could agree that something really, really strange happened there. And there's a very high probability that everything that James Fox depicted in its document is real. But unfortunately, we don't have any official documentation from Brazilian government about that. They simply say that nothing happened. And I've tried to obtain a lot of the documentation, but the sad fact is that at that time in Virginia, 1996, we didn't have a Brazilian FOIA, Freedom of Information Act in Brazil, established, and the military had the authorization to destroy everything they want. So I tried to obtain, for example, the logs of the vehicles and the ladders and of communications and something simple like that. And they simply say that this could be destroyed because they could do that at that time. So this is a problem to obtain documents from this case.
Well, just to know that there's most likely video of whatever those beings were in the hospital. And, James was like really close to getting that, but the person that is holding that doesn't care about money or anything, and supposedly, and it's not going to come out anytime soon. It would be wonderful but the only problem with that, it would have to be so documented that it was some film that was done at that time, the type of film and all that, because right now with the AI, these fakes that are coming out it's going to be impossible to understand what's real and what's fake. Yeah. And all that because you're involved in AI,
and no matter how good the film is, that is always margin to people say, oh, this is not real, this is AI, because AI is very good today, and Photoshop and so on. So it's very, very difficult thing to unless the military comes forward and say, oh, this is real, I filmed this, I certify this. Unless we have something like that, it's very difficult to officially certify something like that, because of what you say. AI is very good today and becoming very, very more and more good as the time passes.
That's right. And here's a good point by Stephen. Another extraordinary claims case without any evidence. That is always the problem, is the evidence. It's just so frustrating sometimes when you have all these great witnesses and so many people involved, yet they don't really have any hard evidence, and it is frustrating.
And we need to agree that's a very good point. But we also need to put in the same position as these people in the jungle. We are talking about, since the 70s, the behavior is the same. We are talking about a very, very tricky, very, very smart phenomena in ways that they only appears where people are not expecting for it. They are alone or are in doubles, doing, for example, fishing, concentrated in another thing, and these things comes from the sky or comes from behind to immediately scare these people or shooting light beams on them or whatever they want to do at that time. So imagine you fishing in the middle of the river in the Amazon alone, and suddenly a being, armored light being, appears from the sky in front of you, and you simply paralyzed. You don't have time to think, oh, let me get my phone that I need to show it to my wife. So it's very simple. It's very easy to judge these people without know how this phenomena behavior there in the middle of the jungle. For example, myself, I encountered some, not beings, but like that, but other kinds of phenomena, and I stayed paralyzed because I simply couldn't think about get my camera, because I was so freezed, look at that thing that I never saw in my life, and not thinking nothing more than look at it and try to think, what is that? Try to describe that. So it's a good point, but we also need to get in position of these people and how this phenomena behave in that sneaky way, sneak activity in front of these people.
Yeah. I've said a number of times, like my UFO encounter that I had back in 2007. If I had a camera beside me, I wouldn't have picked it up because I was in the moment, just trying to figure out what the heck I was seeing. So it is. Now I feel as though I'll always be ready, but that could happen again. Certainly could. So I want to talk about the injuries. Like the part you never really hear much about is, you think that they're benevolent, they're not going to hurt anyone and all that, but it seems to be in Brazil there has been more injuries when it comes to this phenomenon than you typically hear in other areas. But there has been a lot of injuries, right? Light beams and things like that. So, what do you know about the situation for how these encounters happen?
Yeah. As I said, these beings or vehicles generally come when people are alone or in doubles. They shot light beams. Most of cases are greenish to bluish light beams that affect people. These people instantaneously become paralyzed, like doped. They
Hmm.
feel like some radiation symptoms, like red ache, like red eyes, like a feeling that they are losing energy, they are totally weak, a totally weakness that sometimes spends like one week to 2 weeks in that feeling. Sometimes it's not a rule, it's exception. Sometimes these people had permanent sequelae, permanent injuries like disabilities in the motor to walk. They lost the ability to walk properly. Sometimes they had their brain affected in a way that they are they behave like little childs because they are
Hmm.
simply affected in the brains. I visited some of these with victims of this phenomenon that was in that situation, and these are the physiological effects that we are talking. And people say, "Oh, this is a malevolent. This is not. This is an evil activity." But the fact that we don't know, I always give the example about what we do with painters in Amazon. We get these painters, we dope them with anesthetics. We put GPS chips on these animals. We get them, move from them from helicopters. We do a lot of things that on the vision of the animal, this is a violence, but in the vision of we, it's like a preservation, it's like a research. And maybe these beings are doing that in Amazon. They are monitoring us, they are doing putting chips or something like that, and collecting DNA samples or something like maybe to preserve or maybe to study us more. And sometimes people have collateral effects that causes this permanent damage, not because they wanted to do that, but it's because the people that received this light beam had previous conditions in their bodies that consequently have this sad conclusion of the case.
Right. One of the things about I think about why would all this happen in an area like that? And one of the things I think about is, the Amazon rainforest. I can't remember what the amount of species in there, but there's a massive amount of species, something like 2.5 million types of insects, and so I think that if this is all just speculation, but I'm thinking if someone wanted to study life on the Earth, there's an abundance of life there. People being a very small fraction of life in that area, but it seems to me that that would be a great place to study. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why things happen in a certain area as much as they do there. But what seems unique is the beams of light. You don't hear about that in elsewhere in other places, which is
Yeah,
strange.
they appear only in low density regions. They don't appear here in the capital of Brazil or in capital of Rio. In big cities like São Paulo, they only appear in cities that have a low density population. In Amazon, we have this as you said, preserved ecosystems, which is a good laboratory to study. So this is I agree with you that if we conducted that are more intelligent beings conducting a study of these places. The perfect places to study is the place that has preserved ecosystems and low density populations because they simply don't want to be seen in most of cases.
So let's get back to Peru at this point, and I guess I'd like to ask about the activity. What has the activity been like? Has it slowed down? Is it continuing? What do you know about that?
Yeah, I'll share as I talk. I'll share with you an image of the map of these cases.
Sure.
Let me share. But what we have is that it started, as I said, in June. Uh, it started to go more to the north. It started the same way. People are seeing these floating beings. In some cases, people was affected with this light beam that paralyzed people. What's different from these cases nowadays to the cases, for example, in 70s that was investigation by the Brazilian Air Force is that in the 70s, these light beams were more aggressive. These light beams were like burns in the skin. They give some scars in these people. Some material from the skin was visible collected by these lights, but in some way. And this case is more recent in Brazilian Amazon and Peruvian Amazon. We have these light beams that simply paralyzed people, but don't left marks or something that in the skin of the people. And so this is why I classify as less aggressive way these recent cases. I will share my screen where I have a map.
Yep. Okay. So on this is did it begin in the south and work along that?
Yes, this arrow is the direction of the phenomena. Here, the first city in the south of Peru is Pucallpa, which is historically a place that we have cases in 2018. This region here, the first one, is the reason that the Peruvian Air Force established the OIFA, which is the Peruvian Office of Investigation of Anomalous Phenomena. We have a huge wave in 2008 here. And we have this phenomena going to north in Cantamana, Yurimaguas, and finally Quitos, where they have these cases mainly in August. And in September to October started here in the triple border. Here in north we have Colombia, we have Peru, and we have Brazil. So in this triple border, entering the Brazilian territory, we have the first cases here. The same descriptions, beings that are floating, beings that are emitting light beams on people. And we have most recently, in the beginning of October, cases more inside the Brazilian territory in the state of Amazonas. And what is it's interesting thing is that this line is the river line, is the path of the river, and all these cases are going with the flow of the river. And interesting also to remember that in end of 70s, the military witnessed many crafts of different shapes going in and out of the rivers of the region. So this is something that is interesting because people think more about things coming from the space. But in this case, the Amazon, in 2015 also we have documentation from Brazil showing that people were witnessing, indigenous people were witnessing crafts coming in and out of the water bodies of the region. And we need to remember also that these rivers in Amazon are huge. They are like seas. They have an extension and they have a width that is, you cannot see the another border of the river, another shoreline. So this is a huge rivers. These are the seas of the Amazon, and where historically we have these crafts going in and out, and this is an interesting thing.
I can't believe this time has gone by so quickly. We only have like 3.5 minutes left. But has anyone that you know of, this probably might seem like an odd question, but has anyone described them going in and out of water without any splash or anything? Are you familiar with that?
We don't. I don't have any testimony like that about the behavior of the water when they go in and out. But in Brazil, we have cases where they saw beings, not crafts, but beings that were coming in and out of the river. This is we did not heard that in Peru, but I have the testimonies here in Brazil about that, and the Brazilian police conducted an investigation in these communities, and they calling these pirates in Brazil. In Peru, they call it then illegal jetpack miners, and in Brazil they are calling these pirates from the rivers, these beings that are coming in and out of the rivers and scaring this population.
I guess they have to come up with an answer. It always is the case where they come up with an answer, try to calm people down. But yeah, sometimes the answers can not even make any sense at all. That's pirates going in and out of the water. No scuba gear or anything bizarre. So we're getting right near the end of the show. Do you have a way for people to reach out to you if they would like to discuss anything with you? Do you have like a presence online?
Yes, I have the Twitter, is the channel that
that's
I
right.
use English. That you could put after the show on the description or something like that. But for people who want a sex, it's like my name, Twitter, x.com. Twitter is called x.com/Rony Vernet. You can find me there. There you have also my contacts, my email. So I think Twitter is the best option for people who want to reach me.
Excellent. I think that's how we were in touch in the beginning. So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And thank you. You have very good English, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have to have you on again sometime. Okay. All right. Take care. All right, everyone. So we'll be back next week. We have, I believe it's from Britain. We have Richard Rokeby on. He is an author of a book that just came out. Sounds really interesting. So we'll see you here next week. Don't forget to go over to Crossfire this Thursday evening on this YouTube channel, and I'll be hosting that particular show. Kevin Randall will be sitting in for one of the people. Thank you so much, everyone, and remember to keep your eyes to the sky.